Welcome to the Rebound Rundown. I'm your host, Paul Fritschner. This is your daily digest college basketball show that covers everything you need to know about your favorite team. From game previews to recap to press conferences and breakdowns, we have you covered. Every Monday through Friday with your morning commute, wherever you get your podcasts, and make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Welcome into another episode of the Rebound Rundown. I'm your host, Paul Fritschner. As always, make sure you go and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you're listening to this in audio form. Plenty more off-season content for you as we continue our tour around the Midwest. And today it brings us to St. Louis, where I have the pleasure of sitting down with the head coach of the Billikens, Josh Schertz, here to my left. We'll get to Josh Schertz in just a second. But again, make sure you subscribe because not only this week, but plenty more coming as we are just a few weeks away. It's crazy that here we are in the middle of September, but the season's going to be here before you know it. Opening night, November 3rd, right around the corner. So stay tuned to the Rebound Rundown for content. We've already shot a vlog of the practice facilities, a tour, beautiful facilities. We're going to get into all of that and more here on the show. As I welcome in the head coach of St. Louis, Josh Schertz. It's great to sit here and catch up with you, talk to you. Pleasure to meet you, and thanks for doing the show.
Appreciate you having me on, Paul. I've, like I said, know of your work. Really excited to be a part of it. Appreciate you coming down to St. Louis, spending the day with us.
Yeah, so I will say I've driven through St. Louis a lot in my life, but I've never been able to actually stop and see the city. We went to the Reds game I say the Reds game. I guess we went to the Cardinals game, but being from Cincinnati, we went to the Reds game. Able to see the city, see the arch, see campus. This is a state-of-the-art, beautiful facility. I was just blown away by what we walked into and we're given a tour of here in this Champions Center and then in the main arena. This is fantastic.
It really is. You got to go, first off, Busch Stadium's pretty cool.
Yeah. What
an unbelievable place to watch a game. The arch is the backdrop. Unfortunately for the Cardinals, but Reds won last night. But what a great place, what a great city St. Louis is. But in terms of our campus and on-campus facilities, they're second to none. I think when you look at the university itself, when you walk through this campus, it's unbelievable. And then you get into this Champions Center, the efficiency. We talk a lot about player development being the lifeblood of our program. So the ability for us to be able to have under one roof our executive dining suite where the chefs are in and they're preparing our guys' meals for breakfast and dinner every single day, to have a full nutrition center next to it with a team led by Olivia, our nutritionist, that work with our guys on food intake and caloric intake and to be a part of that. To the left of that, to have our academic center with all our tutoring and advisors and all the academic infrastructure all on one floor next to their, down the stairs, our film room, our practice facility, our players lounge, our sports performance center, weight room, athletic training, and then Chaffetz Arena. To have all that under one roof is just incredible for our players. And, it's a credit to our administration, our donors, the vision to put this together here. It's only been open, I think, October of 23, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe October of 23, I think. It was when it opened, and you could tell, just unbelievably well done. And credit to our administration and to our donors for putting something together that's as nice as any high major facility in the country.
Yeah, like I was saying, we shot a vlog. So Ishan gave us a tour, went all the way around the building. We saw the practice facility, the main court. Right now, the ice rink is down for Disney on Ice.
It's big. That's big Disney on Ice.
I've been told that's a big deal here.
That's a huge deal. It shuts down. We nothing gets in the way of Mickey and Snow White and all of them. But it'll be we'll be here. Our some of our staff has young kids, so we've got a suite Saturday, and I think we have 18 of us sharing a suite on Saturday for Disney on Ice. All the kids can come out and watch. Yeah, it shuts down for that. Basketball doesn't shut down for much. Disney on Ice does shut us down, moves us to the practice facility for sure.
So he gives us a tour, and I think to your point, you always hear coaches talk about wanting your facility to be home for the players, that they feel like they can step away from their dorm or their apartment, wherever they're living, come to the facility and have everything in one place to make it feel like their second home. And you have that here, clearly.
Yeah, when our guys live basically in this parking lot right across the street. And so they live a football field away from the facility. They have 24/7 access, and you walk in here and everything you need when they come in, whether they want to get taped, they want to get a lift in, they want to hang out, we watch film, practice, the arena, eat dinner, tutoring, meet with our nutrition staff, come upstairs here, our sports psychology team, our psychology team are up here, our offices. You want a facility that you talk about, the resources and infrastructure to help guys develop. We have that here for not just basketball, for all our student athletes. I don't know of another facility that has the efficiency and has all that under one roof. Like,
sure.
You have Chaffetz Arena, practically, you walk downstairs. Every single inch of this place is done with our players in mind, our student athletes in mind, the efficiency with which they've created this with. And then to have floor to ceiling windows, to have it as well lit as it is, to have the views it does. I walk into my office every day and, you got a view of Midtown and the Arch, outside of my office. And it's always something that takes your breath away when you walk into it.
Let's get to know Josh Schertz here before we talk about the team this year and more of what you can expect for fans listening as a team preview. I want to take a step back and get to know you. And in preparing for this interview, I was reading a couple articles that CJ Moore wrote about you in The Athletic, telling both your story and the things that you have gone through in your life to be able to get to this point. And Coach, first of all, I'm not going to rehash everything from those two stories because there's so many details in them. But I just want to say how impressive it is to me and really eye-opening the opportunities that you've been able to create for yourself through the situations that you have been through in your life, from starting as a tennis player as a kid to then going to college as a basketball player when maybe that wasn't always your intent, to then wanting to get into coaching and then taking a Division II school in Lincoln Memorial for 13, 14 seasons, yeah, and taking a school that was maybe one of the hardest jobs in all of Division II and taking them and transforming them into a perennial national title contender, then going to Division I, you get Indiana State rolling, and now you're here. It's one of those things to me when I was reading these articles where in the last couple of years, maybe the name Josh Schertz has become more mainstream around the sport. And you might think, oh, he went from Indiana State to, you check the Ken Pump page on D1 and you just see, a few years in D1 and all of a sudden he's at St. Louis and it's a quick rise. I say all that to mean this was no overnight thing for you. This was an opportunity for you to build your entire career to get to this point. And it was really, to me, it may sound dramatic, but it was inspiring to me to read your story and see everything that has gone into you sitting right here, right now.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I don't know if you tried to relive it 100 times, how many times it would work out, the way it has. I think anytime you look at your career, I think whether you're your age or my age, it's humbling to reflect back and think about the people that believed in you, the breaks you got, the opportunities that were afforded to you, to be where I was at, 15, 16, where I was obviously high school dropout and, homeless, to, having this opportunity here. The amount of, certainly you got to work incredibly hard and you have to be, I think, really good at what you do, but there's no denying how much fortune and luck, play in those things. You have to have people that take chances, give you opportunities. I was so lucky, Kevin Billerman, FAU, my first job, I don't think I was his first choice, mainly because I interviewed for a GA spot while I was still a student in college, and I interviewed in April, and I think I got a call back in July that to come on down. So yeah. I'm assuming they missed on some people, but he treated me so well, and after our first year together, I was in his office when they dismissed him, and the AD came in, or the associate AD came in, and they told him he had a couple hours to be out, and I remember just being devastated. And he made calls for me to help me and got me on with Andy Russo, gave me a chance at Lynn right across the street from FAU. And And through circumstance, I got to go recruit and his opportunity. Then, 2 years later, Bart Lundy is now the head coach at Wisconsin Milwaukee. Bart hired me on the recommendation, I didn't even know him at the time, Tommy Ryan, who's now the athletic director at Eckerd College in St. Petersburg. Bart called Tommy and said, hey, who's the best D2 recruiter in Florida? And Tommy Ryan told him I was. And I didn't know Tommy at the time. We were in the same league, but never had talked to him. And so for him to do that, for Bart to hire me, give me an opportunity, and then Bart to hire me as an associate head coach after we had success at Queens to go to High Point at 27 and gave me the opportunity to go there. And then Roger Benoit giving me the opportunity to go to Lincoln Memorial, hiring me as a first-time head coach. I had tried for a number of jobs. Over the previous couple of years, I really wanted to become a head coach. I knew at that time it would be Division II, would be the level Division III. NAI was going to be small college. And I'd gone after some jobs, hadn't gotten them. Roger Benoit at Lincoln Memorial hires me as a 32-year-old first-time head coach. And then, Sherrod Klingscales at Indiana State. I'd been, at Lincoln Memorial, like you said, 13 years. I'd spent a long time there. And had a few opportunities to go, but had a lot of opportunities I wanted that I didn't get. And Sherrod to give me a shot in the Missouri Valley, and at that level, at that stage, took a lot of courage on his part, and now here with Chris and the shot here at St. Louis. So it's always humbling to look back, all the breaks you got, the fortune you had, the people that believed in you, gave you opportunities, and certainly, like I said, you have to work. And I think you certainly have to take advantage of those opportunities. But like I said, I don't know if I could have reflected back, 34 years ago at 16 in my circumstances and said, hey, these are your circumstances at 50, that I would have believed that it would have happened the way it unfolded. But I've been very, very lucky in a lot of ways.
There was one nugget that stuck out to me from one of those articles, and it was, I don't know if you were at a coaching clinic or if it was just a week-long camp at Kansas with Bill Self. Mm-hmm. It said that he had left his binder with you for a couple hours.
Yeah.
And that he said it was maybe the most furious 2 hours of note-taking you've ever had in your career.
Oh, my God, yeah. It was. So I used to go, when I first started coaching, I became a head coach. Bart had given me, when I was at High Point, a lot of freedom to explore things. Bart was a really good boss because, for a lot of reasons, but one of the great reasons was that he put a lot of trust in you and gave you a lot of autonomy to explore in different areas. So I had a lot of influence on what we ran offensively, and what I'd kind of dove into was the Kansas stuff. And when I became a head coach, I fully committed to it. And I drove from Tennessee, and I started doing it every year. But my first year, I drove from Tennessee to Lawrence, Kansas, and I met with Joe Dooley, who's back there now. Joe was head coach, East Carolina. And I think I through a connection, got connected with Joe, and he's like, yeah, come out. I think he thought I didn't know, but I'd watched every Kansas game, every possession. I DVR'd them. Didn't have really synergy back in those days, but I DVR'd them. I watched every possession. I studied Kansas. Everything they did, we tried to emulate.
And what year? When was this?
This was 2008. So they had just
the national title.
Just won the national title.
Okay.
But I'd been studying the previous couple. We had done a lot of the Kansas stuff, but we weren't as fully into it as probably I would have been. When I got there, I made the trip out, and I started going out on a regular basis. I think Joe, I got there, and I knew the offense kind of in and out, and so Joe gave me a little bit of access. So one thing he set up for was a meeting with Coach Self. And I don't remember if it was 08 or maybe 9 or 10, but I used to go out every year for like a week. And so I was going to meet with Coach Self, and right as we were getting ready to meet, he had to run to a compliance thing. And so he's like, I'm so sorry. And just incredibly, he's like, here's our playbook if you want to take a look. And he's like, I'll be right back. I don't know how long he'd be back. So I'm writing, and I promise you, it was like getting the Torah for me as like I was going through it. I was writing. It was expansive. My hands were cramping at the end, but that was about as good a 2.5 hours as I've ever spent. Was going through that, and so I appreciate whoever's in compliance, because it wouldn't have been as good. I mean, Coach Self talking to him would have been awesome, but going through the playbook and seeing everything and the whys and the hows was pretty incredible for somebody like me who, studied that and believed in it. And a lot of our early success, was how we played, and we really, the high-low stuff, the fist stuff, the Euro stuff. We ran all of that, and really Coach Self, without intentionally doing it, was really a guy that we looked at and was the example we used, and we stole. 95% of what we did was what he was doing.
It's incredible. Again, the sliding door, you just never know when things happen, how breaks happen, the way that life takes you in this business.
Joe Dooley, I mean, I'm always appreciative of him. Coach Self, like I said, he would have no idea, but
does he know this story? Have you told him this?
I haven't even told him this story. I've talked to him a few times since then, but I haven't told him, since I've seen him at St. Louis that, this thing happened. And I don't remember, like I said, it could have been 9, 10, 11. It was early in my head coaching tenure, but it was probably closer to 9 or 10. But man, it's just a story that'll always stick with me. And like I said, literally my hands were cramping. I was writing so fast, writing so much information, and I couldn't barely keep up. But I filled an entire notebook. That's 2 times. Once with Brad Stevens at training camp, once with Bill Self, where I filled up a notebook, and it was an incredible learning opportunity.
Well, I was going to say that's probably the early days of smartphones where you're not just taking pictures of everything either. You're having to actually scrap it all out.
Scrap it all out. I was actually literally writing it out. I mean, those were, I did not, I think at the time, it was early. I don't think I had a smartphone. I was literally writing, and I was writing in a notebook, and I just filled up, an entire notebook filled with diagrams.
You get that old flip phone out. You're like, hey, is the flash going to work?
The BlackBerry, and then the whole deal. Yeah, no, it was not.
No, Coach, I was just playing Brick Breaker. No, don't worry. So then it was probably 4 or 5 years later, you go to a Boston Celtics practice again, camp somewhere in there. And I think I have this story right. You came back from that. This would have been in the fall. And then in October, you, in your words, scrapped the offense and just started from scratch about a month before the season starts. And this is when you were still at Lincoln Memorial.
Right.
And you just said, you know what? No, we're going 5 out here, or at least this is the way the game is trending. You saw the writing on the wall. Here's what we're going to do. What caused you to do that so close to opening night?
It was 2015. I went to one of my GAs was Sean Van Zandt, who had started and played for Brad at Butler.
Okay.
And so he had been, obviously was connected there. And he was like, hey, we're going to go to, Brad invited me to training camp. You want to go? Of course, I was like, sure. He's like, well, give us access, whatever. And I went and spent 3 days down there and got to watch, Boston basically from the beginning kind of put in their offense. We had been the year before, 14, 15, Lincoln Memorial, we were number 1 in the country.
Yep.
We got upset in the second round. I think it was the 3rd or 4th year in a row. We'd gotten the NCAA tournament, had been upset. We were all in on the Kansas stuff, the high-low, the fist, the 1 game, the Euro 4 game, all that stuff. We were running it all, and got to Boston and watched them, and I was just amazed at the freedom they played with. And I remember asking Brad, like, well, how do they know kind of what to do when you're not scripting it for him? And he's like, they figure it out, and we have these simple things, and guys kind of, and so we came back, and at the time, I made 2 major, changes. One was we were going to offensively kind of scrap what we were doing. We had a big kid, Emmanuel Terry, that really wasn't a good high-low player anyway. He wound up, playing some in the NBA. He's still playing. He wanted to be a national player of the year, but he was really athletic, 6'9", quick. And so it made more sense to me to kind of play 5 out and run a lot of the delay stuff. And we came up with a very, at the time, I guess it was kind of inventive or innovative, but really was, now looking back at it, pretty rudimentary, 5 out. We basically played a ton of delay both ways, played out of, some different series, but very basic 5 out stuff. And then we went to icing the ball screens versus, the way we had played them. And so we iced a ton of pick and roll, and we switched a ton of pick and roll. And those were 2 major overhauls. And when I came back in the end of September, early October, and I told the staff we're going to this, they're like, we were 30-3 the year before, and number 1 in the country. And I said, I've always been, open to, if I think there's a better way to do something, I'm going to do it. I'm not going to be somebody who says, man, but this is the way we've always done it. Now, I think there's a lot of great ideas that you can't do, or maybe you got to know how to teach it. You got to believe in it. But if I see there's a better way to do something, a better drill, a better teaching point, a better way to do something offensively or defensively, I'm not scared to throw out what we're doing and adapt. And so we adapted. And you know what, the year before we averaged 77 a game. The next year we averaged 96. We went to the national championship. We broke through finally, won 34 games. We're back at number one in the country all year. And that was the start of kind of the way we play now. It obviously looks a lot different in 2025 than it did in 15. But that year was the basics of like, we didn't need to, I got off the joystick of coaching guys. It wasn't, as much, micromanaging every possession or patterning them. I was giving them freedom. Now we still pattern it much more than we do today, but it was the beginning, like the genesis of like, all right, this is how we want to play. This is what we think we can do offensively. And then we just kind of scaled on it. It was a scalable model then, and we've kind of scaled into it, scaled on top of it here over the last few years.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it doesn't mean a thing to Josh Schertz because it wasn't broken. They had won 30 games. You still fixed it. You won 34 games, went to the national championship. And at that moment, did you feel like, you kind of just said it, but did you feel like that was kind of transcending what was going on right there in college basketball? Yeah,
because I think it was so different than how other people played. Everybody was, college basketball has been, for the most part, like a lot of things, it's very much, there's a lot of, it's homogenous.
Yeah.
You come down, you run a pattern, the pattern doesn't work. You go to a 1-5 high pick and roll, you play up the 1-5 high pick and roll, and you get a coverage and you play behind that coverage, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just the way that college, has played for a long time. And for us to go to that, to have less, much less structure than probably we had before, it allowed us to play faster. I think it was harder to scout. You could see that, even talking to Brad there, the game was evolving. And that was what was coming next, is like, all right, spacing and more conceptual basketball. Now, the way we do it today is so much different than the way we did it then. But then was like, probably we were just so much different than everybody else because we played this unique style. And there's a lot of people that said, man, college kids can't do that. College kids can't play without a coach, basically micromanaging, every dribble, every play, what to do. And so I think, and even when I went to Division I, I remember like, our staff getting together, because it was the first time in my career I'd work with people that weren't my G age. In Division II, we had 5 guys become head coaches, which was great. And we just hired from our GAs and guys that had been with us. So everybody that I worked with, I was the only person that they had worked with. They hadn't worked with another head coach before. So there was no like, I don't know if that'll work. When I got to Division I, I hired a different staff, and all the guys were from places that I knew places. There were people I knew, but I never worked with. And we're like, we're going to play this way. They're like, it's not going to work in Division I, like, is that going to, and so yeah. I think there was a little bit of that. And so, but it was unique, and still the way we play is unique, but it was probably more unique then because we were the only ones doing it in college.
Yeah. And then you get to Indiana State, and you have on that team, just 2 names that come to mind. That whole entire team was extremely talented, the team that went to the NIT championship game. But you had Ryan Conwell, who transferred to Xavier and then now is at Louisville, one of the best shooters in the country. You had Robbie, who took the nation by storm. How fun was that 2020? That would have been 23, 24. How fun was that team for you to coach and see a lot of what you just talked about with the offensive style and good offensive basketball, but the personalities and everything to come together? And I know at the very end, it didn't happen. You didn't hear your name called on Selection Sunday. I know that those wounds are still there, but still, as a coach, to see that team kind of go through the season the way that it did and get so much national attention, how fun was that for you?
No, it was obviously, it was an incredible year, and such an amazing group to coach. I've had a few teams in my career that, man, it's you just go in every day and it's like, how lucky am I to be, a part of this team, to get to coach this group. And I've been really lucky in my career to have a handful of those teams where, man, every day is like, you pinch yourself, like, because there's such talent, there's incredible character and commitment to being great. And those things don't always go together. You can have talent, maybe you're not as committed, maybe the character level, but the competitive character, the talent, the commitment level, we're all through the roof of that group. I think it was certainly tough to not, we had the lead against Drake late, and Tucker DeVries, made a huge play, and Conor Remmert makes a big three to, we come up short by 4 points in the championship game. We thought we were in, we were 27 in the net, I think 27, 28 in the net, become the highest ranked team to not get in. Really looked like we're about to go out in the first round at SMU. We were just kind of, I think, emotionally spent, and, crowd there at the Holman Center, wills us to a win over SMU. We roar back in the last 12 minutes to take the lead and win the game going away. And then once we won one, I think we kind of got, all right, we're going to go after this. And, we get, Minnesota at home, we get Cincinnati at home. We get to go to the Holmans, get to go to Hinkle and beat Utah, and we're up 7 with 2.5 to play on Seton Hall to kind of have at least a fairy tale ending to it, and come up short there at the end, lose by 2. So some gut-wrenching moments, but when you look at that team, it's everything we talk about that we want from our teams. The way we think basketball should be played, that there's this way to play, and it's the most elusive thing, hardest thing, but can you get 5 guys playing well at the same time? Can you get 5 guys collectively? Can you play in a way that doesn't stunt or mute your teammates? Like, you can be great yourself, but let's do it in a way that doesn't stunt, mute, constrict your teammates. And that team, and I don't know how many teams, some have to look it up, from in the history of Division I. We had it in Division II. I don't know in Division I. All 5 starters are all conference in the Missouri Valley, and our 6 man of the year. It's
crazy.
Crazy. And nobody felt like, so you talked about Robbie and Ryan and how great they were, and they were certainly unbelievable, and in my opinion, our 2 best players. But Julian Larry, Jason Kent, unbelievable for us, Isaiah Swope, Xavier Bledson off the bench. I mean, those guys, when you're on a team like that, where the pieces fit so well together, I always say, like, everybody looks a notch above, a level above what their abilities are. It's like everybody looks a level better than they actually are, because the pieces compound each other in such a way, and that team compounded each other offensively and defensively and in the locker room. It had a great energy, a great character, a great work ethic, but the way they played offensively, and you take one piece off, the whole thing doesn't work. Like Jason Kent's cutting, man, take that off, it doesn't work. Robbie's ability to pass, doesn't work. Ryan and Swope shooting, Ryan's ability to handle and score, Swope's ability to score the basketball and shoot, Julian's downhill ability, Xavier's ability, Bledson's ability to play every position on the court and be the jack of all trades, utility guy. You take one of those guys off, and the whole thing falls apart. And so they were all, played in a way, like I said, that on really good teams, the sum is much greater than the individual parts. We had really good individual parts, but the sum was much greater, and that's what is coaching you're striving for. Like, that's the hallmark, as you're looking for your team is the sum, far greater than the individual parts. And you want to get as good at individual parts as you can. But the key to coaching is to make sure that it's greater. And in that group, it was in a way that really amplified every single guy that played.
Deer Park Roofing has been providing elite service for homes and businesses since 1996 and leads the industry in professionalism, quality, and responsiveness. So whether your needs are residential or commercial, Deer Park can handle any job and ensure it's done right. Deer Park's motto is, protect what's important. And what's important to you is important to Deer Park Roofing. Visit deerparkroofing.com today. deerparkroofing.com.
What makes us human? Humanity is found in the actions that redefine care. Actions that we at TriHealth take every day. By seeing those who feel invisible, hearing needs that have been ignored, Tri-Health is healing the body and the human spirit so all can know and live a better life.
So tell me more about the system that you're running here at St. Louis now, what you're trying to implement with this program. I hear so much about how much film you guys watch, and I know every coach in the country watches film, and it is incredibly valuable to how a college basketball program is run. But the amount of film that you guys watch, what you break down, what you're trying to do, and the other part of that I'm interested to hear is how much you implement in the summer, if at all, conceptually, or maybe only conceptually, versus what then on the first day of practice you're putting in as sets, or here's what we're going to do in this situation. How do you balance all of that?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. Starting with what we want to do, I think, the goal is always the same. Like, how do we play in a way that allows us to play collectively to our strengths? What are our strengths? I think I'm not big into, this is our system. Let's get the players in and let's bend them to our system. I'm much more about let's go recruit the best players we can and let's bend the system to the players we have. We feel like the way we play, we can absorb, almost any kind of player. If you're not great dribble drive guy, okay. If you're not a great shooter, okay. If you're not, a great pick and roll, fine. If you're great in the pick and roll, also fine. If you're a big that can shoot, terrific. If you're big that can't shoot, no problem. We feel like systematically we want to play in a way that we can absorb a lot of different types of players, and we want guys, as simple as it sounds, playing to their strengths and doing that as often as possible. Like, every player looks their best when they're, they understand their function and they're playing to their strength zones, and they're doing that as often as possible. But we don't want to feel like for guys is that, hey, we're having to give up ourselves, and not do us because of the group. There's a level of sacrifice required, but end of the day, we want guys to feel like they're playing to their strengths. They're doing the things that they do best. They're doing them as often as possible, and it's in a way that's amplifying their teammates, and their teammates are then, through their games, amplifying them. And that takes a lot of work. It's to build that type of cohesion, is difficult. I think there's you have to be on the same page in terms of, from a cognitive standpoint, understanding the ability to read and react and to play inside of it. We're not coming down. I think it's we equate it more to like, you get up and you have a stand-up comic gets up and, he has his jokes, and they're pre-planned, and he's gonna, and then there's the improv comic who walks in on stage and the crowd kind of dictates and he's on his feet. We're like the improv comic. We're not getting up on Broadway reading our lines. Like, we're coming in and there's an improvisational to it. But it has to be organized, otherwise it would just be chaos.
Yeah.
And we call it organized randomness. There's a incredible randomness to it, but there has to be guardrails up of, how we're going to play, what's important to us, whether it's, pace is really important to us, or spacing is vital to us, or playing with unbelievable force, or the discipline in terms of shot selection and taking care of the ball. And so what are these core things? What does it look like? What kind of ball movement? What kind of floor movement does that look like? What are the rules? How do we get guys inside of that? And then how do we let guys have incredible artistic expression inside of a team concept, right? So it's like, we're going to give you incredible and full artistic expression as a player to kind of play and showcase all you can do, but we're going to do it inside of a team concept. And so, like a lot of life, it's paradoxical. You're trying to blend things that maybe aren't necessarily, aligned in terms of, like, we want to play fast and loose and disciplined.
Yeah.
Well, those don't go together. We want to play with incredible artistic expression inside of a team concept. But that's the sweet spot for a lot of things in life, or two things that are, inherently opposite, but finding the sweet spot in between them where you can do both. And in terms of how we introduce it, the summer is really spent only teaching the foundation of how we want to play offensively and how we want to play defensively relative to the concepts. We're not putting in plays in the summer. We're really working on what we would call our quick strike, which is like our transition break. and what are we looking for there, and what are the various spacings. And then we're teaching, hey, defense is back. Here are some things you guys can get to from secondary options. But what we're really honing in on in the summer is what I think ultimately offense is advantage creation, being able to maintain advantage once you create it, and then being able to finish a play. Once you get to the end of it, the culmination, whether that's a three or a layup or whatever the shot is, the technical aspect of it. But offense in general is those three things. It's how do you create advantages, and in our system, hopefully, we're not relying on one playmaker or two playmakers. That we have five guys on the floor who are all looking to create advantages. Five guys activated, playing offense at the same time, which we think is so much harder to guard than, hey, our big is down, he screened and rolled, we didn't get anything. Now the big has to run from the rim all the way back up to the top. We got to throw the ball and then get to the next action, where we can activate five guys. Five guys are thinking about understanding their function in terms of how we create advantages. Once an advantage is created, then how do you maintain advantages, which goes back to understanding how advantages are lost, right? And then, the ability to finish the plays, the technical aspect. So there's this blend of, in our player development, skill acquisition, ball handling, passing, shooting, finishing, footwork, et cetera, and skill application, which is the decision-making component. And we're trying to, really drill those two things at the same time.
St. Louis was picked this year, or has been picked by some outlets, right at the top of the A-10, going to be one of the A-10 favorites. You've called this team that you're about to coach maybe your most experienced group that you have ever coached. Mm-hmm. A lot of very talented players that have played a lot of minutes in college basketball before. You can start wherever you want to preview this year's team, whether you want to go through it individually or whether you just want to talk in general. Mm-hmm. But where do you see this team as we record this here on September 16th? Where do you see this team just right now, and where do you hope that it's going to be at the end of the season?
Yeah, I think, we have a chance. Like, I think, I said this in our media here in St. Louis, I think, you can see in different places, we're whatever picked to win the A-10, and we'll be picked high wherever it is. I don't know where we'll be picked, but certainly at the top end of it somewhere. Inherent in the word expectations is expect. Which is when you expect something, that means something's a given, right? And in sports, nothing is really ever a given. I don't think you can expect anything. That's the great thing about sports is everything is earned. Competitive sports, it's on the line, in between those four lines on the wood. The rest of it, you can't talk your way to championships, can't tweet them or Instagram them. You got to go out and actually.
If you could tweet your way to a championship, coach, you could hire me.
Exactly. That'd be great. I would have to save me a lot of work too. But so you have to go out and do it. And so what we talk about in our program with our guys is possibilities, right? Like that to me is much more coherent of like what you're under. Like we have the possibility to be a championship team because we have really good players. We're really deep. We have size, athleticism, skill. We have experienced guys. Some, 5 of our top 8 back from last year's team, along with 6 guys from the portal that have come in and really shown the ability to be really good fits in terms of their level of play and in terms of their character and work ethic and all the things that we want. So we have this group. And then you have 4 freshmen that we really like a lot as well. So 15 guys that we're really excited about. But so there's a possibility that, this could be a really special year for St. Louis basketball. And there's also a possibility if we don't do the work, if guys can't handle the fact that, hey, you're not going to feed 15 mouths a night. If guys can't handle balancing ambition versus agenda, if guys can't embrace and accept roles, if guys can't respond to, success and failure appropriately, that it won't be that. It'll just be a very, disappointing, a season where certainly, I think we have a chance to be good, but it won't be what it could be. And so our ability to navigate those, there's hurdles and obstacles every team has to clear to become a great team. And it starts with the ability to embrace and accept roles. You want guys who are super ambitious, but don't have agendas to get there. You got to be able to, how you respond to, success, failure, how you handle adversity, overcome the storms, the calm endurance it takes to handle games and seasons. And there's all these different things that teams have to overcome from external competition to internal things to become a great team. And we're going to have to start addressing those and clearing those obstacles. Here, we can't get to them other than making sure we develop our habits until, end of October, early November, when roles are defined and we start playing games and the competition then gives us the feedback and all the things as we go. I mean, the biggest thing for our team is the same. I want us to learn and grow from every single experience. And I want us to get better every single day. Those two things. Like if we can learn and grow from every experience, strip the emotion out, truly take the lessons, reset to zero, and come back to work and get better the next day, we'll become whatever we're capable of becoming, and wherever that takes us, I'll be okay with.
What do you think on the court the trademark of this year's team is going to be? When you watch a St. Louis basketball game, right now, I think we're going to be pretty good here and here.
Yeah, I hope that when people see us, they see a team that plays with unbelievable effort. Plays with. We want to be incredibly physical defensively, appropriately physical defensively. We want to play with tremendous force offensively. We think we have the ability to do both of those things. We have great depth. I think we can get into people's legs. I think we can play with great pressure defensively and great pace offensively. I think we have the ability with our size and strength and to be a really physical defensive team and a team offensively that is relentless in how they attack the rim in those different ways, whether it's drives, rolls, cuts, post-ups, off-ball stuff. I think we can be relentless in how we attack the rim. That's what we want to be. We want to be the aggressors. We want to set a tone. We want to play offense when we're on defense. We want to play with great pace, great force. And so I think we have the opportunity to do that. I think we have enough depth. I think for the opposite of last year, we'll be able to get into some teams' legs, in terms of being able to hopefully, be able to pressure and pick up the entire game and really work defensively to be disruptive. And then I think offensively, like I said, to play in a way where we're really aggressive, because we got a lot of guys who can drive it. We got a lot of guys with size who can get in and roll, not just, our bigs. I think we got collective shooting. We lose two great shooters in Gibb and Isaiah, who combined to make 214 threes last year. But our collective shooting, our collective skill, I think our collective, size, physicality is all, vastly improved from last year.
Robbie's still in the program. Year 4 with Robbie. Trey Green, a transfer in from Xavier. I had the opportunity to watch Trey the last couple of years at Xavier, and one of the most talented, if not the most talented shooters that I have ever seen. It's simply, if the ball goes up, it's going in with Trey Green. And so individually, who stands out to you maybe throughout the offseason as, guys that have separated themselves here as we approach opening night?
Yeah, I think, those two guys, Robbie and Trey, have been fantastic. Trey, led us in threes this summer, led us in scoring this summer. He's right there here in the fall. As you said, his three-point shooting numbers in live stuff is ahead of what, Gibson, Jimerson was and Ryan Conwell were, and Isaiah Swope, who, made 110 plus, Kavasi McCauley, all those guys the last few years made over 110 threes. His numbers are trending, in our practice stuff, at a higher level than what theirs were. So hopefully that equates to even more, in between the lines. There's been, the thing with this group has been, which I think is going to be interesting, is there's not been an incredible separation, which, could be a good thing. And maybe there will be as time goes on. But, where we really have 11 or 12 guys playing at a high level and practices are uber competitive. So each one of the returners, that's Robbie, certainly, but Amari McCautry, I think, is primed to have a major jump from year 1 to year 2. He had, 20 and 10 in the NIT last year, 15 and 8 in the conference tournament. He was, by the end of the season, our, inarguably our 4th best player by the end of last year. He's made a big jump between his freshman and sophomore years. Kellen Thames back healthy, who averaged first 4 games this year, 15 and 7.5. Went out after 4 games with some issues, has been back. He's, a really good player coming back. Kaluanya led us in rebounding, blocks, and steals. Is I think significantly improved. Dylan Warlick, who played a ton for us last year after we unredshirted him as a freshman. So those 5 that are back are all, I think, better. Robbie slimmed down, looks good. Our portal class, all those guys have been impactful in different ways. You got Brady Dunlop, Ishan Sharma, who are more in the Gibson Jimerson mode. Yep. With size and shooting, can shoot off movement. Trey, as you mentioned, is as good a shooter as we've had. In my time at Indiana State and my time at Lincoln Memorial, his shooting, is fantastic, and he's really working to become a more complete player and a touch winning in more ways. I've been super impressed with, how he's working. Quentin Jones from Northern Illinois has a chance to be special. A 6'6" point guard with a 6'11" wingspan. Paul Otieno, who was all league at Quinnipiac, first team all league, was is a guy that we think is has a chance to be super impactful as well. So you go through Deion Brown, Boston College. So there's really, everybody has at different times shown it. There's not been this clear-cut separation of where, 2 or 3 guys have jumped out, but it's more a credit to, the quality of depth that we have, and it's going to make my job really hard in terms of, figuring out rotations. We'll probably play more guys than I ever have, but it's also going to make it hard on them because guys are going to have to sacrifice because there's probably not going to be a whole lot of guys who are averaging 30 minutes a game because of the depth that we have and the ability for us to keep fresh bodies in there to maintain our pressure and our pace.
Outside of your family, does anybody know you at this point better than Robbie?
No, that would be no for sure. We've been through it together. He's a once in a lifetime kind of player. And obviously he's a great player, but I mean that more as like a human being.
Yeah,
what he is. People talk about stuff, but I mean that kid. You talking about putting your money where your mouth is. Like, I mean, what he's turned down to stay. And I would have never begrudged him, had he not. But man, his loyalty. He'll always. There's a few guys. I think when you go through coaching players, if you do it right, the best coaches are like, kind of like being a step parent. Like you learn to love kids that are not biologically yours, like they're biologically yours, which is basically what a good step parent does. But there's certain kids that let you in, beyond basketball, and you connect with them and they become lifelong friends. And then there's some that it's even deeper and you get to a level that even is beyond friendship and they become family. And I love Robbie like a son. I really do. And he's not the only player that fits that category, but he's somebody that forever will be like another son to me where, I couldn't appreciate, respect him more for all he's done for me and his teammates.
I know you play pickleball.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit, at least. Mm-hmm. What else do you like to do off the court?
Pickleball's something fun. I don't have a whole lot of hobbies. Travel.
Too many coaches say. I ask this question to everybody, and it's Paul. Sometimes I get out to golf or whatever.
I don't golf, so I don't do
so
that.
Travel?
Travel. I love to travel. I love obviously food. I'm a foodie, but I love to go. And my wife's good about she'll grab me and say, hey, we're going to we're going to go for a hike or we're going to go do this, but it's hard in life to beat a great meal with great company and great wine. Like if you can get great people together where you're laughing, having a good time, you got incredible food and some good wine, that's about as good as it gets outside of hoops. But, I found early in my career, I have 2 boys. One's a walk-on here at St. Louis. My older son is special needs, lives at home. If I'm going to do this job to the best of my ability and prioritize my family, it doesn't leave a whole lot of time for, other stuff. Like this job takes an incredible amount of effort and you have to pour everything into it. And if I'm going to still do that and prioritize my family, my wife and my boys, and that to me is, I don't ever feel like I'm like, man, I'm missing on something. I love what I do. I wake up every day, like incredibly fortunate and blessed to be a coach. There's aspects of the job like everybody where you're like, but the general gist of the job, I love it. I love the chance to impact and work with young people, and to be a husband and father, And my son and my older son and I, we once twice a week we go and do a guys only dinner, or we go to a movie, or we went to the Fantastic Four last week. So those are about as good a time as I can have, and I'd much rather be doing that than 5 hours on the golf course.
Fair. All right, last thing for you, Coach, because I know we got to wrap up here in a minute. You do a segment before practice, teach and talk?
Talk and teach.
Talk and teach. I thought I had that right. Went backwards there. You basically, let's just say, critique, review, say what you need to do better, say what you've done well, right? Is that what it is?
That's right.
So can we do a talk and teach on this podcast and how this went?
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think?
The talk and teacher, they'll kill me. They're way too long. We self-scouting is the best scouting, but no, this was great. I mean, anytime you come in when you could tell you've done your homework, you prepared, you were right on with your question. Didn't even look down at your notes. I mean, you were just able to fire them off. So, I mean, that's elite. A lot of times people are having to read the questions, no reading. You've done your research, you were prepared, you came out, knocked out the park. Good questions, made me think, and no, it was awesome. I appreciate, again, have me on and you guys doing this for our program. It means a lot.
This is no JV operation around here.
No, it is a high major. I was told, Zach Bover, our mutual friend, was raving about it, and I got to tell you, he set a very high standard, and you guys eclipsed that. So I appreciate it.
Well, Coach, I really appreciate it, and also I want to say thank you to Zach and Sam Frere, who helped get all of this off the ground and get this in motion to be here today. Coach, I really want to thank you we could have gone for 3 hours here. We just scratched the surface, but I know we have a lot to get to the rest of today. So I want to thank you very much for sitting down. I hope we can make it back out here at some point for a game to see. Maybe at some point we get up to Dayton when you guys get out there.
We get up there. Yeah, come on up. We'd love to have you.
And it's great to sit down with you again. That was Coach Josh Schertz here with the Rebound Rundown. Make sure, if you haven't already, you subscribe to the show. There will be plenty more coming up. We have a vlog coming out. We'll have facilities tour. We have this podcast that you can listen to in audio form. If you like the show, leave a rating and a review if you're listening to it. It always helps out the ratings and everything, and the algorithm. You know how all that goes. All the data behind the scenes, it helps boost the show up. So leave a rating and a review. Leave a comment if you're watching on YouTube. Like the video. All of that good stuff. Plenty more coming throughout the offseason as we get closer to opening night. Josh Schertz, thank you so much for sitting down.
Appreciate it, Paul. Thanks so much for having me.
This has been another episode of the Rebound Rundown.